And when I say beyond collaboration, I mean it's not just about the collaboration, it's about the long-term relationships that we might build through collaborating with the university or the Institute of Technology or any of the HEIs that we're talking about. And so it's about leveraging the expertise that might be available in the university, and it's also about I suppose in some ways exploiting that expertise to make everybody successful. Thanks. That's it? Yeah. Sorry. I'm pressing too many times. Sorry. Could you just go back to start? Sorry. Okay. So if we think of research and development in terms of a simple matrix or whatever, and we think of things in terms of time and their problem definition, most companies are down here. It's time compressed, it needs to be addressed right now, it's mission critical, mission focused or whatever else, and it's about product support. I mean, in my previous life or whatever else, this occupied the bulk of my time, fixing my customers' problems or whatever else. And every so often we let our research and development team work a little bit further up this scale into the more roadmap development side of things and futuristic and future-looking, forward-looking product development or whatever else. But almost never we never went up here. We never went into the blue sky, true blue sky research and development. We never went up here because it's just too costly and it takes too much time and has too uncertain of outcomes. And every so often we dipped into the disruptive thing if we were trying to innovate against one of our competitors and so on. And so it's in that context that the research funding landscape exists, and you're probably aware of a lot of this, and these are just some of the funders and whatever else. And we'll say the major funder is Science Foundation Ireland into research and development, but Enterprise Ireland, Teagasc, the Irish Research Council, et cetera, are all considerable funders into research and development, and all fund in some ways different parts of that matrix. Okay, so if we look at SFI and look at the funding, the coverage of funding that they would aspire to or whatever else, and it's mostly up here, it's mostly in the blue sky. They do drift down into some applied blue sky thinking and applied blue sky research and whatever else, and some that would be later stage development, but they're never focused down here on customer development problems or whatever else. And so you have to think about that in terms of how this operates, okay? Because then when we look at funding that might be available from Enterprise Ireland that might support activities that you're involved in and support then activities in terms of collaboration with IoTs or the universities, it tends to be down here. It's much more closer to market, closer to the problems that you're having currently, but less about what's happening in the future. It's more about some commercializable product problem that you have. And so if we were looking at then you leveraging the most out of research collaboration with a university, whatever else, you might think of it in terms of a continuum, in terms of a time frame and a long-term time frame. And in your roadmap, you might map out some near-term quality-driven goals you might want to achieve, mid-term product features that you might want to implement, and then long-term new products you might want to focus on at some point in the future. And then in that design of a roadmap that you might put together, and this is an activity I might have, might have got involved in insofar as I would have generally developed a 1-year roadmap, a 3-year roadmap, and a 5-year roadmap or whatever else. The 1-year roadmap, or this near-term quality-driven, there are potential ways you could collaborate with a university to help, or an IoT to help you there. I mean, there's the innovation voucher scheme, there's working with the technology gateways in the IoTs, there's working with technology centres that might be based in a university. There may even be the possibility of bringing an SFI Industrial Fellowship into your company, where the fellowship allows you to import a set of expertise into your company that you don't have, but it allows you to kind of essentially borrow it from the university or from the IoT, and SFI support that salary to be brought into your company. On a more long-term basis, you might think about, well, the next stage up from an innovation voucher is an innovation partnership. it's further down the line. It might be a problem that might need addressing in the 2-year time frame, 2 to 3 year time frame. It's a midterm problem. It's probably something your customers have talked to you about, what's on their roadmap in terms of what they're deploying in the next features and functionality they're deploying in their roadmap. And you want to help support your customers in terms of them being able to do their product launch and whatever else. And so you might develop an innovation partnership in conjunction with a university or institute of technology. And that innovation partnership has a very by its nature, funded by Enterprise Ireland, has a very commercial-driven endpoint, whatever else. It's not necessarily about hardcore research and development. It's more about small or bigger D, right? Then, in that continuum as well is also maybe a little bit further out, another year out, we'll say 3 year out in terms of a problem definition, problem that you need solving. Might be the SFI's targeted project where you become a member, a funding member of an SFI centre. You just develop a targeted project to solve a specific problem. You work with a bunch of researchers that not just from one research establishment, but might be from multiple research establishments. And again, you try and solve a problem. And that project might be a year long, a 2 year long, or whatever. It depends how it's defined. And also up there is another one that allows you to essentially import expertise from a research institution, and that's the IRC Industry Fellowship. And again, that's about finding a partner in an IoT or a university, finding that a person there that would be interested in supporting a postgraduate or a postdoctoral researcher, to come and work in your company, and that person will essentially be located in your company, work on projects for you, be employed by you essentially, but the funding comes from the Irish Research Council, okay? And that's again about importing expertise. On the long term then, you may also, targeted projects might also fall into the long term, but there might be then at some stage way off in the distance, you might actually involve yourself directly as a direct partner in an SFI research centre. But that's something that might be on a 5-year horizon or 6 or 7 year horizon in terms of your product development, and it depends how mature you are in developing your roadmaps. For instance, in my role in commercialisation, I help the researchers develop the proposal right from the day start, day dot, we'll say, and I'm looking at from a pipeline point of view, from a commercialisation point of view, in terms of licensing and potential spin-outs from the university. I'm looking at least 5-year horizon in terms of that roadmap. Okay. It's about maximising results, and it's about trusting that the technology transfer offices or the knowledge transfer offices or the commercialisation offices, or it depends whatever name we're called in the various institutes, trust that we know how to do this. We're all, if you look at our office in particular and some of the other offices, none of us are from an academic background. We're all I'm ex-startup, I've been in large multinationals and so on. My colleagues are the same profile. So we know your story and we know how you are challenged by your customers or whatever else. But the other side of it is we also know how to manage intellectual property and manage it in a way that can be brought out successfully out of the university, out of the IoT, and deployed into your company. We know how that process works. We know how your due diligence process works and whatever else, and how careful you need to be about importing IP from an institute or a university, whatever else. But we're efficient at it, and we don't. I certainly don't spend money willy-nilly just patenting stuff. It has to have a commercial end, and we're careful about that. One thing I would say, and how many people know about it, we have a national IP protocol in Ireland. I think I would strongly suggest that every one of you try and read it. It's not a very difficult document to read, but it does set the rules by which I'm supposed to play by in terms of how I exploit IP in Ireland, but also it sets the terms which you can go and ask me for as well, right? And it's all in the reading, I'd say that, right? So it's important you should read that. Another key thing is to be very focused on outcomes. not to go into a research project, because it's very easy for academics to get caught up in a research project, very easy for academics to get caught up in the beautiful scientific problem that might exist in a research project, and it's very easy for you to lose focus of that because you're concentrating on your customers' problems. It's very easy for you to lose focus on the fact that the scientist has drifted away in another direction. And so focus on outcomes and keep focused on outcomes. Where's the front door? So a lot of universities, some notable exceptions, whatever else, but a lot of universities, it's difficult to find the front door. And I suppose Knowledge Transfer Ireland, who is the kind of overarching group involved in making sure that all the technology transfer organisations in the universities play the same game. Knowledge Transfer Ireland have a link on their website that actually gives you the contacts of all the TTOs in Ireland, whatever else. I would say that once you get in the front door, have a conversation with us first. There's no need to throw an NDA or a CDA on the table. And I'm not saying because I want you to give away your secrets or whatever else, but I'd much rather have a conversation about how we can be mutually of benefit to each other than necessarily get into the nitty-gritty of what you're trying to do and what problems you're trying to solve. I mean, once we figure out who are the best people to collaborate, and because we know that, we know the research scientists who can deliver and will consistently work and deliver, and we know how to avoid, the messers, because they exist everywhere. So have that conversation with us first, and then we can dip into the legal side of things or whatever else we need. And then we'll arrange various meetings with people to sit down and discuss with them, and at least understand if there's a problem there that they can help you solve. So, and just give you very, very small examples of what we do, whatever else. One of the things we're in part of, my office provides technology transfer services to Athlone Institute of Technology and Carlow Institute of Technology, and we also then work with Waterford Institute of Technology. And in that collaboration that we do, we also then look at kind of a consultancy type offering where we'll combine some of the expertise that might exist in Carlow, might exist in Athlone, might exist in Maynooth. We combine that together to give you a more broader brush view of what a problem solution might look like for you. Okay, so that's one way. And because I'm across all the different organizations and my colleagues are similarly across all the different organizations, we have a very good handle again of the whole landscape within the 3 and 4 institutes. And we'd step you through a process on that. Another thing that we're working on actively with 3 research groups at the moment in chemical sensors, in control systems, and then in unmanned vehicles and unmanned aircraft, is the notion of a club, essentially a club where interested companies might come and be involved in colloquia, be involved in early stage review or reading of research material, and so on and so forth. And that club would be, you pay, and you'd be to pay depending on scale, so it might be something as low as a couple of €100 all the way up to 1,000 or more euros, depending on the scale of the company. But you can essentially pay to be part of this club and get access to researchers and get access to groups of people and whatever else. But it's also a way of talking through problems and talking through potential problems that you might have, and then understanding ways to collaborate. This one here, the unmanned vehicle and unmanned aircraft traffic management, actually we've progressed that further, and we've actually managed to land some Science Foundation Ireland funding in collaboration then with Airbus, with Intel and some other smaller companies as well. The control systems and wave energy, that we're still building on that, and then we're working with some large farmers at the moment trying to put together something around chemical sensors. And so thank you.